to the Leaderonomics show, and today we have with us Joel Barker, who is an author, filmmaker, and a futurist. Joel, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What brings you here to Malaysia, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was invited to Malaysia to talk about innovation, which I've done, and I have the capacity to talk about that because as my role as a futurist.
Okay, and what's futurist?
A futurist is someone who is paid, which is
that sounds exciting.
That's right. That's where you got to start, right?
That's right.
Is paid to help people think about the future.
In what sense?
Well, there's actually two kinds of futurists.
Okay.
There are content futurists. Those are people who come and tell you what the future might be. I'm a process futurist, so I talk about how to think about the what. And so I was here to teach some ways of thinking about the future that would help people, leaders included, see a broader vision of the future.
Okay. And what would some of those ways be?
Well, what we studied today, what we looked at today and yesterday, one was a thing I call innovation at the Verge. And it's a specific kind of innovation. It's actually a specific location where innovations happen. And it is highly unused. So what I taught my Malaysian clients yesterday and today was how to go to that place and discover innovations. And we actually did some nice work yesterday.
How do you go to this place? Because I think every company wants to be innovative, right?
Well, of course. And one of the ironies is innovation has become a very large theme. And it's being talked about all over the world. And the basic reason is because if you have an innovative society, you have the ability to keep replacing old jobs with new jobs. So that's very valuable. Innovation at the Verge is about innovations that are combinations of something and something different meeting at the Verge. The Verge is where something and something different meet. And so what I teach in this Innovation at the Verge workshop is exactly what that looks like. There's some very interesting lessons that kind of go along with it. And then we actually practice it. We actually go out and take a look. And yesterday in the public session, several very clever ideas came up. Today at the private session, some very clever ideas came up. Of course, I can't talk about them. But the point was, once people understand it, they very rapidly begin to see opportunities that until you understand that there's this, what you're really looking for is things that are so far apart that you wouldn't think about them coming together as a package. But once they do, then you go, oh, sure. So anyway, I thought about that.
Would you have some examples of how that works?
I have a film out called Innovation at the Verge,
where
I have 12 of them in there. I start with one that is still my favorite because it has to do with a German robot company that had a robot that basically you would screw it down in a location, had single arm, incredibly articulated so it could move all over the place, very strong, 1,000 kilograms straight out, so very strong. 15 feet in radius, so this great big ball of space, very precise. And they decided they wanted to kind of see if they could sell it to a market that would pay them more, because a very competitive manufacturing market. They went into the roller coaster business.
Okay, in theme parks.
Now, manufacturing robot,
right.
Roller coaster, that is something and something different, right?
Right.
Well, the end result is they can do a roller coaster experience in a space 40 feet by 40 feet by 40 feet. Okay. Instead of, quarter of a mile by, and the new Harry Potter exhibit has they call it Robo Coaster. But now notice, as soon as I put it together, you go, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
But if I'd said, give me an example of what you do with this robot other than manufacturing, you probably wouldn't have said, let's make a roller coaster of it. That's right. So what I'm trying to teach people is that there's this really incredible opportunity for innovation if you take unusual things and put them together. Yeah. So that's one of the things we focused on. The other thing we focused on was how to assess innovations early for their long-term implications. Because the term unintended consequences, it's one of the dilemmas with innovation, is you innovate for a specific, usually an immediate reason, what we call a first-order implication. That's what you're looking for. But the cascade of implications keeps going. There are second-order implications, there are third-order implications, and I've basically developed a tool called the implications wheel that creates and shapes the conversation, so you can, in a disciplined way, explore those implications and discover out in this larger area whether you have nasty unintended consequences that are waiting for you, or, by the way, sometimes there are very positive implications that you never thought about. And unless you had done the exploration, you wouldn't have been ready for it. You couldn't have used it. So that's kind of the stuff I bring.
And you know, you have a number of books and especially a number of great films. I think that won numerous. How did you get into filmmaking and?
Well, when I started talking about paradigms, that was in 1974. By 1980, I was getting about 1,000 requests for 100 speeches. I only did 100 speeches a year. So I'm thinking 10 to 1, I'm losing 90% of my clients that want to be my clients. I can't operate. So I said, wonder if I could make a film about paradigms. So what I did is I made this film, and of course then the film just exploded. And it's still the #1 selling film in business films. It's historically.
Well, tell us about paradigms, because that was fundamentally a significant shift in thinking.
What's interesting, it's about a shift in thinking, and it was a fundamental shift in thinking. And what it did is when I got into the field, I wrote down, I said, there are a couple of questions I want to answer. All right, question number 1, why do smart people make such dumb decisions about the future?
Why do they?
You know? And the second one was, is there a way to think about the future that adds value? All right, so the first one was answered with a paradigm thing, because what I learned in my research, I took Thomas Kuhn's science research, and I was the first one who really said, wait a minute, this is much bigger than science. By the way, he was very mad at me for saying that. You can actually Google his name and read about him saying, I like my detractors better than my admirers. I was interviewed for Fortune magazine, and then they interviewed him about me. And he didn't have a nice thing to say. He said, he's using it in the wrong way, right? Well, I actually wasn't. But what I showed was that if you take his theory and apply it on a broader basis, the key elements were that we all learn to see the world through paradigms, through these rules and regulations that are in our minds, but they influence our physiology. We actually see through our paradigms. And so the reason smart people were making these bad decisions, because they were using old paradigms to try to see the new world, and the filters would block. So it became an extremely popular topic because it did two things. It actually gave forgiveness for people, for the smart people. Right. All of a sudden they said, well, see, it wasn't that I was stupid. It was that I couldn't see past my filters. And the second thing it did is it actually opened up space for paradigm shifters to be treated properly. Because before it was, how dare you mess with our rules? Then it became, oh, you're thinking about a new paradigm. So it had, I think, it still has a lasting experience. The film still sells very well. The book is still being used by like 120 universities around the world. It's in 20 languages. In fact, it just got translated into Russian.
You made it when you get it in Russian, right?
I was going to say, or you could think about the other way, a little late.
That's true.